Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. Today we're going to be going over a discovery that has occurred on a species of Tyrannosaur, as well as what's occurring with possibly smaller oviraptor dinosaurs over in different part of the world, and what happened to a sea turtle. And we're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. So let's dive back into the Mesozoic. So, from Science News, paleontologists find evidence of cannibalism in Tyrannosaurine dinosaurs. So, this is referring to the large group of tyrannosaurs or even Coelurosaur theropod dinosaurs that would consist of animals such as Albertosaurus, T Rex, and Electrosaurus. You did have, this is specifically the Tyrannosaurine. Tyrannosaurine is a slightly abbreviated term for the family. You also had the Proceratosaurs that existed further back into the early Cretaceous and the late Jurassic, but they had a much shorter reign. You had it where the Proceratosaurs were existing or first evolved somewhere around 162 million years ago and would eventually go extinct at about 122 million years ago during the first 20 million years of the Cretaceous. So the evidence comes from paleontologist Dr. David Hone of Queen Mary University of London and Dr. Darren Tank of the Royal Tyrrell Museum, who analyzed a fossilized skull and a mandible of the Tyrannosaurine dinosaur Daspletosaurus. Interesting. Wow. Okay, so I'm not too familiar with this. Definitely, we have many instances from T Rex specifically of massive damage caused by other T Rex individuals on the skulls of different T Rex that we have discovered in parts of Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota. But Daspletosaurus, this is definitely not often mentioned. This is interesting. So, Daspletosaurus was a large Tyrannosaurine dinosaur. Oh, yeah. So, this is a species of Tyrannosaur that existed over in Montana and into Alberta, Canada, around 73 million years ago during the late Cretaceous. And this animal was feeding on different species of duck-billed dinosaurs or hadrosaurs, early predecessors to species like Edmontosaurus and Nectons, which would have existed much later into the Cretaceous, as well as different species of ceratopsians or the horned dinosaurs that would later give rise to species like Triceratops and occasionally hunt other species of theropod dinosaurs. Sauropods, it seems, weren't really a major presence in Canada or even the northern United States at this point in the late Cretaceous. Seemed to be somewhat of a mystery at this point, but they would eventually occur a bit later on. So, it was one of the largest tyrannosaurs and is closely related to the much larger, more recent Tyrannosaurus rex. Like other Tyrannosaurine dinosaurs, Daspletosaurus is most likely both an active predator and scavenger. I don't really know why this is still a bit of a debate, even though it's a bit of an older occurrence, this article. When it comes to carnivores in general being predators and scavengers, most are both, especially when you're talking about terrestrial carnivores in most cases, especially if it's a fresh carcass, though, depending on the predator, you can have certain species that have a digestive system that is well equipped for being able to digest semi rotten meat.
Are there
So,
any animals today like that?
somewhat spotted hyenas, you could say, and definitely saltwater, not saltwater, well, probably saltwater crocodiles, but also Nile crocodiles, even certain species of vultures, somewhat. Many, I'd say, like there are certain species of mammals, like occasionally bears will actually feed on pretty old carcasses, and it might have been the same case with different species of theropod dinosaurs, and not just tyrannosaurs. You might have had it with different members of Allosauridae or even Megalosauroideae. Like you could have had different species of spinosaurs that would have possibly have scavenged older fish or dinosaur carcasses, but preferably these animals would have wanted fresh meat. Um, so possibly stealing the kill from another theropod. Let's see. So the individual of Daspletosaurus in question was excavated from the lower part of the Dinosaur Park Formation, Alberta, Canada. Yes, Daspletosaurus is well known from this specific area within the country. And you also have different species of ceratopsians and hadrosaurs that occur here too. It was a subadult in dinosaur terms, just under 6 meters long or 20 feet, and around 500 kilograms or pushing 1,100 pounds. That is a small Displetosaurus. I wouldn't even consider that a subadult. That's a juvenile, if that. Not even a large juvenile either. Dr. Hone and Dr. Tank found numerous injuries on its skull that occurred during life, at least some of which were likely inflicted by another Displetosaurus. It was also bitten after death in an apparent event of scavenging by another Tyrannosaur. I don't believe it said so far how long ago this might. Oh, okay. So, well, between 77 and 74 million years ago. Okay, it's possible you might have had it to where another tyrannosaur, like an Albertosaurus or a Gorgosaurus, might have scavenged it. So this is a bit of a mystery. So it's really hard to say at this point if it's really in general, if it was cannibalized by another Displetosaurus. However, you do have it when actually, let's look up an Albertosaurus skull. Maybe even Displetosaurus skull first. But Albertosaurus, so Alber, because they do have distinct tooth or distinct dental build in general. Whether you're looking at Gorgosaurus or the other two species, and the same goes for any member of the Tyrannosaur family. Even when you're looking at Tarbosaurus, which is the closest, when you're referring to size, Tyrannosaur to T Rex, it has a very different skull structure. Um, yeah, this is the thing when it comes to earlier late Cretaceous species of Tyrannosaurs. Also, when you're comparing it to T Rex itself, this is very different. This isn't even what you would see in a younger T Rex individual. Okay, so I think we're both looking at that last one was an Albertosaur. This one definitely looks like it could very likely be an Albertosaur. Um, I guess it's possible. You probably would have had that extra layer of keratin to make its horns, or at least those horn-like projections just above its eye sockets, more presentable. But this is a very well-preserved Albertosaurus skull. Albertosaurus is very known for, or well known for, having a much more narrow sort of a snout, and also a much more slender type of a build compared to even Displetosaurus, but definitely compared to T Rex or even Tarbosaurus. Oh yeah, that is definitely a very Albertosaurus build when it comes to the skull. It's not that necessarily this animal wasn't meant for crushing bone to a certain extent. It's just didn't have the overall broad structure of some later species like Tarbosaurus or even T Rex. But this animal could still reach somewhere around 2.5 to 3 tons. And when looking at the teeth, they are definitely more heavily built compared to many species of carnivorous dinosaurs. Like when looking at different members of the Carcharodontosaur family. Also, if you're comparing it to Allosaurus, Torvosaurus, it's very distinct. The teeth are much wider, so a bit more blunt. That could be. Was this a Displetosaurus that you looked up by chance?
No, it's Albertosaurus.
It's, actually, I'm not even sure if I would put that with a Displetosaurus. That looks like something between a Tarbosaurus and a T Rex. Yeah, it seems far too large and robust for an Albertosaurus. The brow ridges, like around the front of the skull, are immense, and also right behind the eye socket too. But also looking at the teeth, they're just far too um large compared to Albertosaurus. It's definitely a very good skull, but also just looking at the nostril size, could be a younger T-Rex. I mean, that's the thing. You're looking at this. This is completely different, and also, yeah, this. Um, I think this could possibly be a Gorgosaurus or a Daspletosaurus.
Well, this looks like someone stepped on its face.
Yeah, this could be an Albertosaurus. We have a T Rex skull that also looks like this. In fact, we might have many more than just one. But yeah, that is very well preserved.
Hold on, I've got a different angle of that.
But this definitely looks more like a Albertosaurus. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, it looks like someone stepped on it.
yeah, it's probably due to the fossilization process and some of the minerals, and also specifically how the pressure was applied ended up sinking or causing the skull to sink in with itself within itself. But besides that, I mean, yeah, this animal, despite having a narrow snout, was definitely capable of taking on like the different species of ceratopsians and even ankylosaurs of the time. Which, because of this animal is why they were heavily armored, but also they had to be careful with each other. I think a lot of the times when it comes to dinosaur conflict, it's usually focused on the different species of carnivores against the herbivores, and in very few cases is it herbivore conflict, which is very odd considering it happens consistently today. And in some cases, you don't even have it to where there's like some major issue going on when it comes to lack of water, maybe lack of food in some instances. They just decide to um, start a fight. Or usually it's not even both creatures, it's one causing the main issue. Now, it's not that it wouldn't also occur within carnivores, but I think it's that in a lot of cases, sometimes it seems that the carnivores are having to put a lot more mental energy into at least thinking about different types of plans in life compared to herbivores. Herbivores, it just seems, I mean, they are having to protect their young, but territory really isn't a big thing for them. They're constantly just moving about, whereas carnivores, in many cases, have a specific territory they're having to defend as well as their young. They're teaching their young different skills. So it's just that they have a lot more on their mind. So I'm just defending the carnivore in this case when it comes to, I guess, what would the term be? Stableness? Okay, so Displetosaurus skull with numerous injuries. So where, I mean, is this it? Is it specifically that area that's been chipped towards the back of the skull? I mean, if that's the case, that is quite immense. However, there is this hole here, but I'm not sure if, I don't know, that seems a bit large for a tooth to have that much of an impact. Hmm. It's definitely a very well preserved upper part of the jaw. Most of the teeth are intact.
Always amazes me how cavities haven't taken these teeth.
Um, well, yeah, that too. I mean, you could, well, partially because they were probably what helped prevent the cavities was also consistently, um, well, actually, you know what? I might have to check that. How would consistently losing their teeth help fight against cavities?
Because I wouldn't have them.
That is possibly the case. So, the fact that alterations to the bone surface indicate healing means that these injuries were not fatal, and the animal lived for some time after they were inflicted. This animal clearly had a tough life, suffering numerous injuries across the head, including some that must have been quite nasty. There is somebody else. Was it Stan? Trying to think specifically who. Um, hmm. Let's look up Stan the T Rex. Because, specifically, it might be this individual
Is there only a
T-Rex.
skull?
There could be, but we still have, like, a full-on display of Stan. Like, I believe even the museum, like, had a, replica unless well, a life-size version of him, like, without any muscle or skin added. but he had several bite marks within his skull, unless I'm confusing it with another T Rex. I think that's him. Don't believe this hole over here is natural. Yep. Or in this region, yeah, this T Rex had several wounds. So he was obviously getting into many fights throughout his life. I don't even think he was fully grown. Because if you really look at this T Rex, it's not that he necessarily didn't have very large teeth
There's
compared
holes all
to.
over him.
Yeah. Well, these specific holes along the gum line would be fairly natural. It's when you get to like this specific hole over here, these larger puncture wounds just below the mandibular fenestra, it starts looking like he was getting into conflict quite often. And in many cases, they would have survived these types of um, fights as well. He does seem a bit less heavily built compared to certain other T Rex specimens. I'm not precisely sure how old he was when he died, but many T Rex individuals that we have discovered are usually not much more than 30 years of age. So, and likely they could have kept growing after that point, just at a bit of a slower rate. And this also seems to have been the same instance with the different species of long necked sauropods. So the saurischians in general, well, probably occurred with the ornithischians too, like the different species of ceratopsians and stegosaurs, but definitely seems to be very prevalent with saurischians, like the different long-necked sauropods, so like the brachiosaurs, the diplodocids, titanosaurs, and even different members of the theropod lineage. He does have decent sized arms compared to his body size for a T Rex, and some of the strongest arms compared to their body size of any land animal in general. I mean, you have it where it's very possible that each one of these arms could have lifted over 400 pounds without much training in general, or pushing a little over 180 kilograms. Now, still specifically, it is a big debate as to what these arms could have been used for. Now, with that much strength, these arms are technically capable of killing like most um mammals that have existed just for simply how long they were. And the claws could also do quite a bit of damage, considering this animal is hunting armored species of dinosaurs and um, not soft bellied mammals. Like even when it came to certain species of mammals that are covered in dense layer of fat and fur, it only helps so much. Considering it's, I think, a bit of a question as to the amount of force that could be inflicted with those small arms. But also, this animal did have the ability to possibly um, help, like, step on its prey, especially if it's an ankylosaur. But that's quite risky considering it's having to avoid that club tail, which could break its shin bone and its skull as well.
Again, it looks like somebody stepped on somebody.
Hmm. So
I don't know.
maybe this could be of Stan and they just
Said Sedgwick Museum of Earth Science.
huh.
Then it says online exhibitions. What?
Or they're just separating the different parts of the skull in this instance, because it looks like a bit of a puzzle. So there is no evidence that this Dipliosaurus died at the hands or mouth of another Tyrannosaur. However, the preservation of the skull and other bones and damage to the jawbone show that after the specimen began to decay, a large Tyrannosaur, possibly Dipliosaurus, bit into the animal and presumably ate at least part of it. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is possible that another Dipliosaurus came over and fed on it, but you also have the other Carnosaurs. Not carnosaurs, the other Coelurosaurs in the area. Okay, so let's look up another species of dinosaur. What? Critendiceratops. So Crittendencerops. It's not a large creature, but for the time, it was decent size for the family.
Okay, is this one?
Yep, that's him. I believe he was discovered slightly earlier in time, maybe. But
Wait, what?
well, I'm just trying to think of what year in the 2010s. Like I believe somewhere
There's an
between like
article in 2018.
okay, I was going to guess like 2017. So all right. Um so this is a species of ceratopsid dinosaur from New Mexico about 80 million years ago. So this is before any of the different species of tyrannosaurs like Albertosaurus, Dipliosaurus, and Gorgosaurus had evolved, as well as Tarbosaurus, T Rex. This is after, however, Electrosaurus and the different members of the Proceratosauridae, considering they had gone extinct about 122 million years ago. But this specific ceratopsian is not much more than maybe 13 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere around 3.7 meters.
Okay, I have to show you this because this guy's looks funny.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd sort of a look for a Crittenden ceratops. Really looking as eye socket horns. I mean, when it comes to the bottom part of the snout, it wasn't too large.
I was just looking at the horns and thinking it looks like an alien with antenna.
Yeah, it definitely does. It almost looks like the ants from Bugs Lightyear to an extent, or Bugs Life.
And he looks sad. Yeah, did you say Buds?
Yeah, I mixed it up with Toy Story. Yeah, I mean that is a pretty accurate depiction of this animal. However, I think the horns along the frill would be slightly different. But when it comes to the eye socket horn specifically, Crittenden ceratops had that specific type of curved sort of a horn structure, which you could say is not necessarily surprising, depending on what species of the Chasmosaur or Centrosaur lineage of ceratopsians that we're referring to. But in this case, the Crittenden ceratops is a member of the Centrosaur family.
This guy looks sad.
What?
He looks sad.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Wait,
Um,
wait, I have one
maybe he,
that's coughing up a fur ball.
yeah, it definitely seems that way. I mean, you could have had it where they were lacking protein and they caught one of the larger mammals at the time, and he's just coughing up their fur. But he has a very wide frill in this case. In fact, I mean, you could say, I mean, he is very heavily built and wide for his length. I think this animal probably reached somewhere around 800 to 1,000 pounds, or pushing like 370 to maybe around 450 kilograms.
Maria says, I think it's Maria, says, "It's beautiful."
Welcome aboard, Theropod. And yeah, it is a great looking species of Centrosaur. It is odd, though. I really find the just um, pale in terms of like there not really being a nasal horn present. Um, Part of the snout is just quite odd. Like I do really like the distinct nasal horns of different species of chasmosaurs, even other types of centrosaurs of the ceratopsid lineage itself. But even animals like Pachyrhinosaur still have that distinct dome, but you can't really compare that centrosaur considering he doesn't really have any eye socket horns. It's pretty distinct on this fellow. But also, even the horn-like structure along like the upper part of the frill is very different from most other species of centrosaurs and chasmosaurs. This animal has horns towards the top of the frill that point towards the side and opposite directions of each other. So, also, I think he even has a very large side horn compared to his body size, unlike many other members of the Centrosaur lineage. They were still present, but they were quite small. He
Um,
also seems to have a very large overall beak compared to his skull, too. I mean, you could say most of the ceratopsians had a decent sized beak, but it's a bit larger on this animal. Also, when you look at the anorbital fenestra, or that large round area towards the front of the snout, it is immense on this animal compared to certain other species of ceratopsians.
Oh, I found a good one.
I don't mind picture in general, but his shins might have been a bit too skinny. Yeah, I actually think this looks really good. And there's some species of hadrosaur in the back. I'm wondering who that could be. Definitely a member of Hadrosauridae. I mean, like the ceratopsids, both families, um, being members of Ornithischiae, evolved somewhere around 82 million years ago. Now, they are still technically quite distantly related to each other. But, yeah, I think when it comes to the feet of this Critendenceratops, I think they look pretty good. They're also giving him a bit of like a curious um, sort of persona. I think that looks really good. And actually, what is interesting about the snout of this animal, or looking at the nasal horn, is that it's slightly rigid. And so you could somewhat say it does have a bit of like a horn like structure, but it's very small and it consists of like several appendages.
Oh,
Also, I think like the horns on this individual are quite robust compared to certain other reconstructions,
this
which is fine.
this one looks happy.
Yeah, he looks really just curious. He seems to be just one of those bulls that he's just trying to find better forage, and he's having a bit of like what marine or army ceratopsian training, because he's preparing for war against the tyrannosaurs in the area. And maybe even like competition against hadrosaurs, but hadrosaurs probably weren't much of a problem. However, this is a smaller ceratopsian, so you could have it where some of the hadrosaurs could push him around as long as they avoid his skull. And is also what I mean by that, it's not just his horns. This animal could bite a hadrosaur's forearm off if it really wanted to. So
I never
they
really
still have
think
to be
about that.
careful. Yeah, also it's definitely very apparent in, or probable in, even the larger species of ceratopsians, but their beaks were also quite sharp too. And you could have it where, even their teeth alone, despite this being an herbivore, were fairly sharp and also very capable of like disempaling, like even maybe the ornithomimids or the ostrich like dinosaurs in the area, but they were barely a nuisance. However, you still have it where larger herbivores today will just try to challenge like the smallest of herbivores. Well, what I mean by that is like you have it where certain elephants will try to take on like a little impala, or like a Thompson's gazelle in some cases. And it's like, why? There is there's nothing to gain from it. He's not a problem. It just shows kind of how brutal these ecosystems were. So, combat between large carnivorous dinosaurs is already known, and there is already evidence for cannibalism in various groups, including tyrannosaurs. This is, however, an apparently unique record with evidence of both pre and post mortem injuries to a single individual. I still think when it comes to cannibalism and even different species of tyrannosaurs and pure evidence, it's not very common. In some cases, seems to be a bit more abundant with different species of abelisaurs, especially Majungasaurus over in late Cretaceous or 68 million year old Madagascar. Whereas you also probably have it with even different Allosaurus specimens from the late Jurassic of Wyoming, Colorado, over 152 million years ago. So, this would have probably have happened. Oh, also Coelophysis too, over in the Triassic of Arizona. So that was like pushing 213 million years ago. We do have definitive evidence of that occurring with the adult Coelophysis going after juveniles. And also not just juveniles, but at the same time, like the animal was gorging on not only its own kind, but even crocodilomorphs and possibly a small lizard at the same time. So they were pigs. Okay, let's head over to another part of the Mesozoic. So, from Sci News, Juanosaurus ganzuensis, new feathered dinosaur discovered in China. Aha. So, this specific species So, a remarkable new genus and species of oviraptor dinosaur has been unearthed in the Gansu area of Yangtze province, southern China. I think they used this again on another article, but this is a completely different topic. I am familiar with this oviraptorid. However, this is going over like the discovery of this specific individual. It is definitely quite unique with its distinct type of a crest. I think many that are somewhat familiar with the oviraptors tend to think of a very large crest at the top of their head. Also around the same size, maybe slightly larger than Velociraptor, still pushing somewhere around 6 to 7 feet in length, or like 1.8 to 2.1 meters, and probably weighing maybe 40 to 60 pounds, or somewhere between 20 to 25 kilograms. Also, being in some cases quite herbivorous, but they also were likely feeding on maybe smaller species of dinosaurs or even reptiles, like different smaller crocodilomorphs in the area. And um, despite these animals, like it seems to be that there's quite a bit of evidence for them being quite caring mothers, or at least very much protecting their eggs. They would have also, like many species of smaller carnivorous dinosaurs, raided the eggs of other individuals that were not associated with their group, or just other species of dinosaurs in general. So the new dinosaur belongs to a group of feathered dinosaurs known as oviraptors. It has been given the official name Huanosaurus ganzuensis. The genus name refers to Huanan in Chinese Pinyin, which means southern China, because the dinosaur was discovered in Gansu of Jiangxi province. The species name refers to the locality of Gansu. Guananosaurus ganzuensis, fossilized skeleton with a nearly complete skull, was discovered and analyzed by paleontologists from Uppsala University in Sweden, Institute of Geology, and the Henan Geological Museum in China, Hokkaido University in Japan, and the Korea Institute of Geoscience and Mineral Resources in South Korea. Okay, this is the strangest collaboration over an oviraptor I have ever seen. Um,
Not to mention the fact, what language were they speaking to do this collaboration?
Probably English. Um, I'm guessing. So the specimen has a nearly complete skull, including lower jaws. 7 cervical vertebrae are preserved, or 7 neck vertebrae. First 4 are almost complete, whereas the last 3 are only preserved as fragments or impressions.
Maria said, I don't get why they would have feathers.
Well, we have actually a wide variety of different species of dinosaurs with preserved pigmofibers, or showing that these animals did have feathers. Sinornithosaurus is a great example of that. Also, we have preserved pigmofibers coming in from animals like Velociraptor. And it even seems when it comes to certain younger individuals of different large species of theropods. Oh, yeah. Tyrannus. In fact, let's bring him up, is a good example. Now, when it comes to different species of dinosaurs like sauropods, okay, um Tyra. Okay. Um yeah, when it comes to long necked sauropods in general, there doesn't seem to be much evidence for these animals having feathers, but certainly is possible.
The person probably doesn't know about the bird link either.
Ooh,
Oh,
for
the bird link.
for like, oh, you mean how they are connected? Okay. Also, if you look at the first bird being Archaeopteryx from 150 million year old Jurassic Germany, we do have evidence for that animal containing feathers as well. So the present day birds, so we have over 10,000 species of living birds today, did derive from specifically Archaeopteryx back in the Jurassic, and not any large species of dinosaurs. I think there are certain instances where certain documentaries or books, just other um, just visual formats, make it out like birds came from animals like T Rex, Allosaurus, or Brachiosaurus, and that's not the case. T Rex, actually, all three of those dinosaurs are actually quite closely related to the birds, comparing them to animals like Triceratops, Stegosaurus, and Kylosaurus, because the birds, which are they all belong to the family of dinosaurs or um, avian theropod dinosaurs called Paraves. And this would also included smaller dinosaurs like even not necessarily the alvarsaurs, but possibly certain other lineages like the Microraptorids are very closely related to the Paraves lineage, such as like Sinornithosaurus. And then you have where the dromaeosaurs are also like one of the closest living or extinct lineages of dinosaurs to the Paraves or essentially the avian theropod lineage. So birds are living avian theropods. So Tyrannus was a species of Tyrannosaur. In fact, the last species of Proceratosauridae that existed in the early Cretaceous of China. And this was when China had experienced a major cool front. And this is also like back when even Antarctica was quite cool as well. And even if you go further back, to like over 135 million years ago, over into Antarctica, different parts of Australia is quite cool. So this animal would have hunted probably certain species of sauropod within the region, earlier species of ornithopods.
Yeah, but you're jumping off the
Oh, the birds. Oh, we have also evidence from preserved um skin fragments of Tyrannus specifically showing that it was feathered. And this animal was pushing over 30 feet in length or about 9 meters and probably weighed at least 2 tons or pushing maybe 4,000 pounds or a little over 1,700 kilograms. So, in this case, for you, a Tyrannus probably helped it survive in the cold. And in many cases, with the smaller species of theropod dinosaurs, you probably had it where, um, depending on the ecosystem that they lived in, you might have had temperatures somewhat drop, especially at night, and the feathers would have helped insulate them. In many other cases, and even with those same species, you could have had it where at certain parts of the year, especially during the rut, they would have been used for attracting mates and also just intimidating either other predators or, some cases, omnivores away from a certain food source, or if they were a threat to their young, or just other members of their herd in general. I'm trying to think of what else. We also have evidence for many species of feathered dinosaurs that they were quite colorful too, and it wasn't just like a plain sort of like a maybe black or brown sort of an accumulation, though we do have evidence for certain species of the Paraves lineage and even the Microraptorids for them being in some cases like almost like a grayish sort of a purple, depending on the species. It might be Microraptor itself. Microraptor is also a fish eater, so being a piscivore. I think also it makes the Tyrannus quite distinct among earlier predecessors, not necessarily later individuals. Is that it has very distinct horn-like structures towards the front of its eye socket. So in some cases, they're reconstructed to look almost similar to Carcharodontosaurs.
okay, then I'm assuming she said, I thought feathers were added later as an evolutionary step. I didn't know they had feathers in the past. Thanks.
Um, well, it used to be theorized that it was only until the birds evolved that feathers started being shown on different species of avian dinosaurs. But then, well, technically, you had it where, like, back in the 1800s, with like the Reverend Edward Hitchcock had come up with the theory that dinosaurs were very bird like. So, in some cases, probably containing feathers. And you also had it where very
I forgot what was the reason for that.
well, specifically, he was looking at the different sets of dinosaur footprints that he was discovering over in New England. He was comparing them with different members of the amphibian, the reptile family, different types of mammals. Like, especially, he was comparing them with kangaroos, people, possibly bears, and who else? Like, especially also like different species of lizards when looking at the reptile family, because You also had it we're still later into the early 1900s, and you had these representations of the different species of sauropods that were, especially Diplodocus itself, being reconstructed as having to like build a trench for these animals just to get their body through the earth, which was disproven much later on. That wouldn't have been a practical sort of um, an evolutionary standpoint for, I'd say, any species, but well, especially on land. But where was it going with that? Oh, now in like the past couple of decades, it has been much more, or it's more often reconstructed with even earlier Triassic species of dinosaurs, and specifically like the carnivores or theropods in general, to be reconstructed with feathers. Now, I do have to look back and see the specific species of Triassic theropods that we have preserved feathers from. But we do have evidence of different species of Jurassic predators. So, from about 201 million years ago to about 143 million years ago, um, so containing a wide variety of feathers. Though you might have had certain species of medium-sized theropod dinosaurs that possibly just had a slight coating. Probably even with animals like Cryolophosaurus, considering it was quite warm in Antarctica over 190 million years ago, because that's where Cryolophosaurus is from. But it's still probably dropped now and then. Um, so also therefore snowing. Okay, let's head back to the article. So we're going over the species of Oviraptor. Let's see. So, oh, so the first four are almost complete, whereas the last three are only preserved as fragments or impressions. So that's only referring to the seven neck or cervical vertebrae. So scientists wrote in the paper published in the journal Scientific Reports. The partial humerus, the upper arm bone, the ulna, the forearm, the radius, I believe like the wrist area, and complete hand of the right arm, the left hand, a small portion of the distal end of the right femur. I believe that's referring to the right thigh bone and the proximal end of the right tibia. So referring to part of the shin and the distal portion of the right pessar are preserved. It's not hitting me what specific bone that is. So let's take a look at what they've found. Whoa. So that's the entire skull. Wow. That looks really. Oh, there he is. Okay. I was confused for a second. Like, I swear this is not the
I thought
beak.
it had like a snout.
Um, yeah. And then I was thinking for a second, like, it almost looked like I think with the mud background, I was thinking of like a cinnamon stick, but maybe it's because like I'm craving eggnog. But, yeah. So here's where the beak would be. Yeah, very large eye socket when it comes to different species of oviraptorids in general. But you also had it where the oviraptorids specifically were actually evolving much later into the Cretaceous compared to the oviraptorosaurs. So the oviraptorosaurs were really containing at first the kygnathed species of oviraptors. So these animals first evolved about 130 million years ago during the first 13 million years of the Jurassic.
Wait, wait,
I mean
explain that better.
Cretaceous. Huh?
You, what you said. Explain that better.
So you have it where the early oviraptorosaurs, for the most part, are the kygnathids for short. So these would later evolve into oviraptors such as the Gigantoraptor in 90 million year old Mongolia. So they first evolved about 130 million years ago. The true oviraptors that would consist of animals such as Oviraptor wouldn't evolve until somewhere around 82 to 83 million years ago. So there are a wide variety of different lineages of both Saurischian dinosaurs and Ornithischian dinosaurs that are popping up between like the 82 to 84 million year mark during the late Cretaceous period, Why is a big question, but there was just a massive explosion of these different species evolving at this point. So this animal also didn't really have um, any teeth in its mouth, though it might be one of the species that had that upper sort of area of like the little cusp of teeth on the upper jaw. But besides that, some of these animals were practically toothless. So let's go back.
So they were just crushing their prey?
That or they were slicing leaves or munching on different species of ferns. They might have gone after different types of seeds or nuts in some cases. Also, let's bring up another species, the unzu. ANZU. Oh no. This is not that's not good. There we go. And this animal is an American. He is specifically from different parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana. So he's one of the few species of oviraptors that has been discovered over in the United States. And this animal isn't too large, but I believe it still reached somewhere around 8 to 9 feet in length, or maybe pushing somewhere around 2.7 meters, and probably weighed in at a little more than 100 to 120 pounds, or maybe pushing somewhere around maybe 50 to 55 kilograms.
Or someone made him fat?
Oh yeah. It doesn't really. Okay, yeah, you could say he is somewhat chubby neck, but maybe it's reinforced muscle. But also when it comes to the oviraptorids, this is one of the lineages of theropod dinosaurs that had a decent arm length ratio compared to their body size. Though the same would be the case with many species of the dromaeosaur lineage in general. Technically, the oviraptorids are closely related to other species of, well, other many other members of Dromaeosauridae. Okay, so I might have been off on the weight. This animal's probably weighing in at somewhere around 200 to maybe 280 pounds. So that might have been a juvenile that I was referring to. Or the females are just small, but we have no idea at this point.
Was he not hollow?
Or probably at least 100 kilograms. No, no, he definitely had hollow bones. They might have been somewhat more robust compared to many species of animals today. Might have been, at least in this case, it seems a bit similar to like cassowary, which would have made this animal very like having very explosive kicks. And that's not necessarily surprising for different members of the oviraptor lineage, the dromaeosaurs in general. These animals or these carnivores, omnivorous in this case for the oviraptorid, but when it comes to the dromaeosaurs that had a sickle claw on their tail, were very likely they weren't just slashing their prey with those distinct claws, but also kicking their prey at the same time. So you could have had it where, depending on how small of a prey item they're hunting, just the kick alone could possibly break the leg of certain juvenile, like hadrosaurs or ornithopods in some instances, other smaller theropods. So it wasn't just the claws they had to worry about. Okay, eating shellfish. Um, or at least the crustaceans in this instance, is possible for an oviraptorid. I mean, this is definitely a very interesting representation. I wonder if possibly we have somewhat evidence of this animal being a bit of a piscivore compared to other oviraptorids. And where it lived in the United States, it's very likely that it was a swamp like ecosystems. Um, but and it's possible maybe along the coast it might have been hunting crabs. I would definitely have to take a look at that. It's certainly possible. It has a very robust and sharp beak compared to certain other oviraptors. So, Hanonosaurus or Huanonosaurus ganzuensis was a small two-legged dinosaur with a parrot-like beak and a crest on top of its skull, but it had a different jaw structure than most oviraptor dinosaurs. This new dinosaur was a cousin of the Mongolian Cetipati and lived in the Upper Cretaceous epoch about 72 million years ago. Cetipati is another oviraptorid species. So the most closely related to Hoenosaurus is Cetipati, which was found approximately 3,000 kilometers northeast in the Dahudokta Formation and in Kailasor Flats, Mongolia. I don't think I knew that there was a specific species. I mean, not species. Is this representing the Cetipati?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's definitely a very odd character. He's um yeah, he is just a very weird physique. Um, hmm. This definitely does resemble. Well, I think certain reconstructions have shown Siddipati having this type of a look, but I don't think he's going to find that snail in this dry of an area. Um, I mean, certainly possible they went after different types of mollusks, especially different types of snails. Oh yeah, very long arms compared to its body size. Also, quite long shin bones, and compared to the thigh bone, decent length ankles, but a very I wouldn't say too short of a tail, but um
I have a dancing one.
yeah, we also have evidence for certain species of oviraptors having very or quite a um an array of plumage around the ends of their tails. So very likely using this for intimidating other oviraptors as well. Like you could have even had it where different species of dromaeosaurs might pose a threat to this animal, and splaying its feathers out might actually scare the other carnivores, and also attracting mates during the breeding season. Oh, um, no, I guess that's fine. Very long neck compared to its body size, which is not too abnormal with certain lineages of oviraptors, but quite long for this animal. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that's a good representation of the Tyrannus.
I just like this guy.
Yeah, this Crichtonceratops, and there's two turtles looking at him
Oh, I
in
didn't see
awe.
that.
Yeah. I wonder. Oh, I think he's in the water. Like, he's walking through the water area of the swamp, and he's actually grabbing onto the tree for maybe a bit of rest or just a drier spot. Yeah, it's not a bad reconstruction.
And the sad one.
Yeah. Or he just looks confused.
No, he
No,
looks
he does,
confused.
yeah. Yeah, it's a good, skull as well. Okay, so headed towards the Cenozoic era. So from good .co, a sea turtle swallowed 20 fishing hooks. Only a procedure meant for humans could save her. Whoa. Wow. Okay. That is a staggering. Jeez. Well, let's see what occurred. I think it's a loggerhead sea turtle. When it comes to loggerhead sea turtles, so you can find them in different areas of the Pacific Ocean, pretty much most of the Indian or Atlantic Ocean. Now, I don't know their approximate population. I think they're also concentrated in certain areas of the Mediterranean Sea. Like you can find them as far north if you're referring to the Atlantic as certain parts of like Labrador of Canada and like off the coast and the British Isles. So just north of like Scotland, England, and Ireland. Not definitely not like touching the Canadian Arctic Islands or Greenland. Simply too cold for them, or even heading to like Hudson Bay.
They have something stuck in their mouth.
Um, yeah, I'm guessing that's what's it called? Her anesthesia? Or no, that'd be your oxygen tank, I think. Well, not her tank, but no. Oh, I think what I was trying to say with also when it comes to the loggerhead sea turtle is that the largest male I think we have on record pushed 1,182 pounds, or pushing a little over 545 kilograms. They are a bit omnivorous, so they're going after like different species of seaweed, but they're also going after krill, certain crustaceans, squid occasionally, smaller fish. So they have quite a varied diet. And there are only about 7 species of true sea turtles. I think around 65 species of tortoises and over 300 species of turtles. That's not including prehistoric species. Well, okay. If you're including the loggerhead sea turtle, this creature has been around since I believe the Miocene epoch, so over 15 million years. Pretty successful species. It survived the Ice Age. So when Sophia, a 114-pound loggerhead sea turtle, arrived at East Coast Zoological Foundation Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center at Bedford Zoo, she had more than 20 fishing hooks lodged in her digestive tract, along with fishing line. The zoo's veterinary team was able to remove 2 hooks, but most of the fishing gear was too difficult to access. This inspired a donation from Orlando Health, which will hopefully save Sophia along with any other turtles injured by fishing gear in the ocean.
Wait a minute. So they haven't actually done the surgery yet?
Um, I would think they would have, but who knows? Okay. So Orlando Health Regional Medical Center endoscopy unit has donated advanced endoscopy equipment and instruments. So veterinarians at the rehabilitation center will be better able to remove foreign objects and animals with unique anatomies like sea turtles. We're honored to collaborate with Brevard Zoo's veterinary team by providing this specialized equipment. Dr. George Christophi, gastroenterologist at Orlando Health Melbourne Hospital, said in a statement. This is pretty exciting, but also just shocking. 20 of them.
What was it doing? Just grabbing people that were fishing hooks?
Definitely seems that way. By sharing our practice, we can help support the veterinary team at Bedford Zoo to ensure the sea turtles in need continue to receive the most accurate, effective surgical care and improve their chances of recovery.
Oh, if they live this long, if they haven't learned, don't bite the hook.
Yeah, it's true. I guess everyone here is part of the process. So, an endoscopy is a minimally invasive procedure usually reserved for humans in which a doctor uses an endoscope or a long flexible tube with a camera and light to examine the interior of the body without major surgery. This actually occurs in a wide variety of different animals. Like, I think I've seen it occur with like certain tigers or even lions. Not sure about elephants. Certainly is possible.
What are they choking on a watermelon?
You're talking about for the elephants? Um, I would assume not, because they could just easily digest that, but maybe not the seeds. Um, I would think maybe bark, possibly. But focusing on the turtle, so also when it comes to how like the furthest north when it comes to like turtles range, I believe refers to like the red colored turtle over in southern Canada. But you can also find the turtle in different parts of New England, the Midwest, the western United States, so over in different parts of Montana, Idaho, North Dakota, Michigan, Minnesota, over in Maine, but also like southern Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. So, with this equipment, veterinarians can have a much better view of the interior of an injured sea turtle's body and can more accurately remove any foreign objects. So, according to a press release from Orlando Health, this collaboration also creates new opportunities for collaboration between the zoo's board certified veterinarians and Orlando Health physicians with joint expertise in these gastroenterology procedures. This equipment expands our ability to care for patients with more severe fishing line and hook ingestion, said Dr. Rachel Turner, DVM diplomat, ACZM, director of veterinary programs at Bedford Zoo.
So there's a lot of animals that are swallowing fishing hooks?
Yeah, it definitely. Actually, it's technically not surprising. Um, but yeah, actually, especially with sea turtles, it's definitely not the first. So, in addition to the technology itself, this is an invaluable opportunity for collaboration and education between our teams. This partnership enhances our ability to provide advanced care for sea turtles and strengthens the future of marine animal medicine in our region. Okay, so did it occur? Okay, well, here I think it's occurring. Oh, also, the shell's a bit chipped. So it will all start with Sophia. With the help of the new tools and Dr. Christophi's technical expertise, the team will attempt to remove more of the hooks and potentially cut or remove the wires still lodged in the loggerhead's body. Physicians like Dr. Christophi will consult on the procedure. Certainly, I had to catch up on my turtle anatomy to consult with our partners here at the zoo. Dr. Christophi said in a video interview, chuckling. Um, Oh, also another interesting thing, I think when it comes to loggerhead sea turtles themselves, they, can hold their breath for the longest period compared to any marine actually, any vertebrate on Earth. I believe they can stay submerged for 10 hours before having to go back up for air.
What?
Yeah. Now usually, like, when they're constantly on the move, it's usually, like, every 15 to 30 minutes, but they have the ability to stay submerged for several hours. So the challenge here is that they're in a shell. So some of their gastrointestinal tract is inaccessible. Going from the food pipe, the esophagus, and into the stomach, there's a sharp turn. So having this equipment we use in humans might allow us to be able to get to the right place and remove any hooks or foreign objects we might see in a turtle. Guessing that's her. So the end goal, like any sea turtle cared for at the rehabilitation center, is to return her back to the ocean. Spokesperson for or from Orlando Health told Good that Sophia is continuing to get stronger every day, and once she is medically cleared, she will be released back into the ocean.
So she had the surgery.
Sounds like it.
It just didn't say she did?
Yeah. So the center treats hundreds of sick and injured sea turtles every year, with an increasing number injured by boat strikes and improperly discarded fishing gear. Um, I'm not sure if it's an increased number. You just always hear about the turtles getting caught. While conservationists and local officials continue to urge safe and thoughtful practice on the water, these healthcare experts are innovating together to save the lives of more turtles on land. As gastroenterologists, we use this technology. It's being a bit repetitive. Okay. Is there anything
It
else?
never mentioned she had the surgery.
Yeah, and that was it. Well, that was odd. Okay, well, um, definitely wonder how that occurred. Okay, well, um, please stick any comments that you have about prehistoric to current animals in the chat. Odd, you know what? That's it. Should I? Oh, okay. So yeah, we'll wait for any comments on different species of dinosaurs or different prehistoric mammals or even current day mammals, other odd situations like this turtle.
Alright, so when are you gonna do the next stream?
Probably occur tomorrow. So, um, yeah, probably around 7:30 will be the goal.
Central.
Yeah, 7:30 Central.
Did you want anything else spoken about?
So, thanks for joining. And for Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy in Live Daily News. Let's see. So, I guess happy International Cretaceous Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.